Good evening and welcome, and it's nice to be here with you once again with Moving Forward, and we're just so excited about that. I'm Abdul and my co-host
Dara Hamilton, and as usual, it is always a great day when we are moving forward, Mr. Ali.
That's what we should be doing in life.
Absolutely.
Every day, every minute,
every day,
second,
every minute.
Moving forward, because all these seconds, once you go past them, they're not coming back.
Oh, gosh.
Right?
And I think that the earth is continuously moving forward, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We're moving forward with it.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, we better go and check it from time to time to see which way we're going. Well, this evening, before you get further, I really want to thank Earl Morris, who is the one who helps the technical side of things, and George Matthews, because without them, we're not going to be moving forward at all. So we really do appreciate their help. This evening, though, we're going to be speaking to a lady called Alice Henry. She's Dr. Alice Henry, to be exact, and she's got a doctorate in public health, and that's very exciting, from the Walden University on the mainland. And public health is extremely important these days. What we eat, whether we exercise, what we're doing really to live for as long as possible. And that's really very critical. We got all sorts of things. We have diabetes is one of the things which we're concerned about. And the list goes on in terms of the number of people. And as you get older, you're more liable to get ill in some way or other. So it's really nice to have you with us. We know that you're with Human Services at the moment in time. And we just want to welcome you and just give us a general overview, since you're dealing with certain sections in the community, as to where we're standing health-wise as you're understanding it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both for having me.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested in the topic of nutrition, wellness, fitness, all of those things, because of course being a dietitian, that's my main concern. Since I moved back home, probably like 30 years ago, I started working for the University of the Virgin Islands. And back then we had a high prevalence of diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, things of that nature that nutrition impacts. Now, unfortunately, 30 years later, we're still mired in dealing with those diseases, and especially with the senior citizens that I work with. And I'm finding that after the pandemic, I think the pandemic really had an effect on the health of just the general population.
Yeah.
But senior citizens in particular, I think that just being locked down, the unsurety, the stress of the disease, I think it really had effect on their overall health. I'm just seeing, loved ones pass away, things of that nature. So one of the things that I do, I'm over the Meals on Wheels program, so I interact with a lot of the seniors, is just food security. Of course, the stress of having the high prices of foods within the territory, it really weighs a lot on them. So it's very difficult for them not only to afford the medication that they need, but to also be able to afford the healthy food that they need. So a lot of them are just not eating the way they should, which of course impacts their diseases, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, things of that nature. And I'm not sure how we can solve that problem, because that's an American problem. Because the way that we eat, the access to fast foods, like I said, the high cost of food, it's very difficult. And food, if you think about it, for all of us, food is comfort. So in times of stress, a lot of us tend to eat and we don't eat the correct foods, or we overeat, or sometimes we undereat. So it's a difficult thing as far as to improve the nutrition overall, but we try the best we can. Outreach, the Department of Health does outreach, food fairs, different fairs in general, things of that nature. But it's a difficult problem to deal with.
So you are a registered dietitian.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that means?
Well, there is a difference between being a registered dietitian and a nutritionist. A nutritionist, anybody can call themselves a nutritionist. You can hang a sign on and say, I'm a nutritionist, and start giving advice. And sometimes the advice is good. It depends on the person. But to be a registered dietitian, you have to, of course, go to a 4-year college, and then we do an internship 2 to 4 years after that. and then that's what's required to be a registered dietitian.
Okay. And I wondered, and this is just a broad question, and it may be a little bit silly, but I want you to talk a little bit about whether nutrition actually matters. I feel like sometimes we treat food as something that is not important, and the types of food that we eat is not important. I know I'm guilty of that many times. Let me just get something to eat so I can keep on going. Let me make it through the day. But how much does nutrition matter to us, and what role does nutrition play in our lives and in our health?
Nutrition matters intensely in our overall health. The way we think, the way we, just to prevent disease, one thing, but just the way we feel about ourselves. Because you can think about eating fast food versus if you eat healthy, the way you might feel sluggish, you know, depression, anxiety, all of that can be traced back to the foods that we eat. Whereas if you eat healthier, a lot of the things that plague us, anxiety, depression, just that feeling of sluggishness, that'll improve when we have our you know, the foods that we eat are improved. However, like you said, we don't really think about that.
No.
So we get up in the morning and we grab the first thing, or we might skip, you know, breakfast. We might go, you know, grab something at the fast food restaurant, or we might get one of those big plates of food and just eat the whole thing for lunch. And then you wonder why you're tired at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So
does that big plate of food have a lot of good nutrition in it? I mean, sometimes, again, guilty of eating a big plate of food and then saying, oh my God, I don't know that I had anything that was really nutrition filled for me today, even though my stomach is filled. Can you talk a little bit about that, what our plate should look like, and whether you think we are getting enough nutrition or good nutrition?
Before I answer that question, I always like to tell people, do as I say, not as I do.
Okay.
Because when people see me out in public, they always want to scrutinize what I'm eating. And I am not one of those dietitians that eats properly all the time. So with that being said, the foods that we eat really are nutritious. Even the carbohydrates, because carbohydrates, you need that to fuel your body. That's just brain food, the carbohydrates. For things, for like the rice, the macaroni, beans are a starchy vegetable, plantain, all those things that we think of as starches, those are vital for our health. However, we just eat too much at one time, in general. So if you think about a plate, if you divide your plate in half, half of what we eat should be vegetables. And when I'm talking about vegetables, I'm thinking of things like, you know, callaloo, broccoli, carrots, not things like potatoes and root vegetables. Those would be considered starches. So I'm thinking about leafy green vegetables, salads that have a good variety of different things in them, tomatoes, things of that nature. However, a lot of us don't even eat vegetables on the typical West Indian diet, very limited in those types of vegetables. Yes, we'll have provisions, we'll have things like the plantain, we'll have potatoes, but
rice goes down a lot.
Right, exactly. But as far as a good variety of vegetables, that's very limited. So, okay, going back to the way you should organize your plate. Half of your plate should be vegetables. Then the other half you would divide into half would be starch, half of the other half would be starch, and the other half would be whatever protein you have, whether it's fish. If you're a vegetarian, it would be lentils, tofu, TVP, which is textured vegetable protein. That would go in that other section. But in the West Indies, we tend to eat half of our plates being the starch. So we'll load it up with a Johnny cake, we'll have our macaroni and cheese, we'll have our rice, and all of that. That will take up the predominant part of our plate, along with the protein. If we have fried fish, if we have chicken, stewed beef, and then we might have like a little piece of lettuce and tomatoes chuck off to the side. But, so it should be the opposite. Half of our plate should be vegetables.
Yeah, and I imagine, just imagining the plates that I've gotten used to, we expect a lot of it too.
Right.
Like we expect a lot of rice, you expect a lot of macaroni, a lot of stuffing, and then you expect a lot of protein, right? And then you expect a little bit of salad, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That becomes the model, I think, for a plate that looks good to us.
Yes.
And we continue to
Is that sort of cultural though? Because I feel as though the way we eat and so over a period of time is something that's being passed on.
Oh yeah.
And people look at that and they're not necessarily saying, well, I need to be putting these things in my body, the new things you spoke about.
Right.
Because it's going to make me healthier.
Right.
I live longer. I will get less opportunity for diabetes and things of those. So it's really a shift from what we used to do, what we're accustomed to doing, to the new world in terms of getting ready to really stay around for as long as possible.
Right. Well, there are two things to what you're saying. The first being that we used to do, like our parents, our grandparents in the olden days, they would eat primarily the same amount of food, but they were working hard. You know, you didn't have the washing machine. I remember my mother used to have that little that board. Yeah. And you know, she used to talk about going to the gut in Frederickstead and washing clothes there with the stones and everything. So they were burning off the food that they were eating. Now we're eating, you know, the same amount of food, but we're not. We have the internet. We have TV that you know, you don't have to get up and move. Exactly. We're very sedentary. We don't have to do much. You can pay to have somebody wash your car. You don't have to do as much as you did. As you did in the past. So that's the first point. We're not as active. The other thing is that we've adopted a lot of course, the American way of eating, which is large portion sizes. So we adopt that type, because in other parts of the world, they don't eat the same kind of food.
No, and then you go over there and you're like, why is it so small?
Exactly. And we're wondering where the rest of the food is.
And where is all the seasoning and so forth, the extra salt and the extra sugar and whatnot?
Exactly. So when people come to America or, you know, places that have, you know, Americanized versions of eating, they can develop what's called metabolic syndrome, where they gain a lot of weight you know, because they were used to eating in a healthier way, but when they adopt the American type way of eating, the American diet, then that's when they get certain types of diseases that are related to overeating, obesity, diabetes, and all of that they didn't have when they were living in their country of origin.
I don't think it can be emphasized enough, so I'm going to bring this point back up that you already made, which is part of the reason why nutrition matters is to prevent disease. Basically just to prevent disease. And I remember years ago when I was more focused on nutrition, I think I was less busy, I remember reading a study that said that men who ate 3 or 4, I think it was, portions of broccoli, I don't know if it was a day, a week, or whatever it was, were able to significantly reduce the size of their prostate tumors. And I said, by eating broccoli, you know, and how much, I was so shocked at how nutrition is so much tied to our health. And I wonder, what you thought was a good mechanism for getting those ideas across, because a lot of times it can feel as though we're divorced from there's a distance between this is what you should have on your plate and why you should have this on your plate. So how do you think is the best way, or what do you think is the best way to get new or better eating habits instilled in us?
It really has to come from the person themselves, because I can talk until I'm blue in the face, which is one reason I didn't go into private practice. Like my counterpart, Dr. Letitia Henry, who we don't know we're related. We don't know if we are, but we might be. But she's in private practice. Counseling people to change their eating habits is difficult, because we're so festivities surround food. The birthdays, you know, you go out, you have potluck at work. Everything is surrounding food, and you have to eat, and it's social. So it's very difficult. But I think just having the knowledge presented, you know, every chance I can get, and hopefully something will click. Because really, when I do talk to people about nutrition, I tell people you don't have to make monumental changes all at once. Okay, I'm not taking away everything from you. If you can make one change every month, and cumulatively, at the end of the year, you'll have made 12 changes. So if on the first month you didn't drink water at all, because there's some people out there that don't drink water. If I could get somebody to drink 4 glasses of water that first month, so they get used to that. The second month, I get them to say, okay, eat 1 vegetable, a green vegetable, 3 times a week.
3 times a week.
At least, if they don't eat vegetables. That's another thing added. And then you do that every month. Then at the end of a year, they've made 12 changes. It adds up. But for people, when people hear that I'm a dietitian or that, you know, I want them to make changes, they think that, oh gosh, is she going to take away this? She's going to take, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. And yes, it would be fabulous if they can do that, but realistically, people can't. It's
not
very
all at
difficult.
once.
Not all at once.
That's just really way
not
too
all at
difficult.
once.
Well, I'm looking here at the good lady in terms of her
He's
diet
so
and so forth.
Oh, boy.
And I know that from my
Let's not get
point of
started
view,
with my
I
diet.
do try to exercise 3 or 4 times per week, except Saturdays and Sundays. And I am trying to get on this plan for the vegetables and the proteins and so forth. So I'm trying to see what I could do to deal with diabetes.
Yeah.
You know, as it is.
Yeah.
So I've been exercising for a long time, so it's not a problem for me. It's on the agenda.
Right.
And I think that that's really important. You want to talk a little bit
Believe
about
it or not, I exercise as well. I may not be able to tell at this point.
Oh, please.
I mean, I have gained like 50 pounds over the past, but yes.
There's no way.
50 pounds. I am like 50 pounds heavier than I was up to like maybe, let's just say 20 years ago.
Okay.
Okay. But it still snuck up on me because a few
Yeah.
years ago I was still 30 pounds heavier.
Okay.
And
okay.
so, you know, lighter. Forgive me, not heavier. I was 30 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
But I am exercising. I feel very happy with where I am. One of the things I don't feel happy with is the nutrition. So one of the things that I've done is I've gotten a supplement, one of the green powder supplements.
Okay.
That, like, it's a superfood.
Right.
And so I've been using that to supplement.
Superfood?
Yeah, to supplement the fact that I'm not getting enough fruits and veggies into my diet
Right.
in a way that's working for me. And I noticed that for me, one of the issues is scheduling. So for example, after we get home today, I don't know that I feel like cooking or preparing a nutritious meal. So I may be more likely to just eat out or pick up something on the road.
Right.
And so that becomes problematic in terms of getting that nutrition that we spoke about, because most places really don't sell very interesting food other than salads. You
Yeah.
know, when you
Right.
just want to pick something up and you don't always want a salad.
Tradition
Right.
is what they've been following, you know,
Right.
generally, certainly. So
Right,
that's
right.
very important indeed to make some changes as you go along.
Can I piggyback on what you were saying about
Yeah.
supplements? Supplements are fabulous because I always recommend that people take supplements, age appropriate, you know, disease specific supplements. However, what I want people to realize also is that the supplements that we're taking, they're only the nutrients that we know of in the foods that are needed for our bodies. There's so much out there in the foods that we have no clue.
You're right, or how it works.
Or how it works.
Like the presence of this needs the presence of that in order to make something
Exactly.
happen, and we may be extracting something that we really need to have a specific effect.
Exactly. So we only know about the, you know, the popular vitamins and minerals and the other antioxidants that we know of now, but we don't. I trust me. There's stuff that we're going to learn about in the future. Yeah. So that's why it's so important to get the nutrients from our foods and then use the supplement as a backup.
Right.
Yeah.
What about young people? Are we going into schools talking to them? Because they're going to be following a pattern in terms of, and a lot of them are more in line with, you know, fish and fries and you know, things and things of that nature. So are we doing some work with those folks?
That I'm not sure of. I know because I used to work at UVI Extension Service, and I did used to go. That was back in the 90s, and I used to go into schools. So I'm not sure because I work primarily with seniors now, with the senior population. So I'm not sure what they're doing with the children in school, but that is absolutely needed.
It's very
And
absolutely
I can imagine that if we had a school lunch program that follows that model of that plate, where we're offering kids mostly vegetables, a reasonable size of protein, and a reasonable side of starch, then they'll start to form a new model in their own minds about what is appropriate food, what does that look like, and also they'll be introduced to a wider range of foods that they'll then adopt as they get older. So really, I would see that we can change. Yeah, we can change the direction by again focusing on the youth.
That's right. And they might be able to pass this on to their children
there you go.
later on, because we live in a passing on world.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
So we do what other people behind us that we're doing
Exactly.
so, and we need to look at change.
Yeah, exactly. So even if, like you're saying, even if the parents at home don't have the best diet,
Right.
then if the child at least can go into the schools and see, you know, this is healthy, then they'll get that exposure.
Right.
And the thing is, with the school lunch program, they are supposed to be following the USDA guidelines. However, because of course they only get a certain amount of money into the school system to feed the children,
Yeah.
the choices sometimes aren't the best. you
So
know.
we're
So that's
talking,
why.
you mentioned access to healthy food for seniors, right? And the idea of food security. And now we're talking again about access to healthy foods for the younger
Yes,
people, for the
it's very
kids as
important,
well.
yeah.
So I wondered whether you believe what your assessment is as to whether we have adequate access as a population here in the territory to those fruits and vegetables that we would need in order to be more healthy. Because I know we have access to lots of meats, but when I go to the grocery store, it doesn't feel like we always have access to fruits and vegetables in the same way.
Right, right. Well, we do have a lot of local farmers, and I always say support your local farmers.
Okay.
We have the wonderful program on Saturday mornings at the Department of Agriculture. You have our the market next to in Lorraine. So we do have, and of course we have other local farmers that sell produce to the different supermarkets and at their own farms. So support your local farmers as much as possible. The whole thing about eating healthy is economically related. If you don't have the money, unfortunately, healthier foods tend to be more expensive. That's the American system, and that's the way it is.
I wish they would change that a
Yeah,
little so
because-
that keep everybody healthy. You're not losing
Exactly.
anything. I want to ask you about mangoes. What kind of, what category does that fall into?
Mangoes are extreme. They're a fruit. They're a fruit, and they're extremely healthy. Lots of fiber, lots of vitamin C. The only thing with mangoes is around mango season, people with diabetes have to be very careful because they have a high sugar content. All fruits, no matter how sour they taste, they do have a sugar content. And mangoes, of course, they're sweet, but mangoes, soursop, sugar apple, even canips that you know that
Right, that I had one earlier. I did
Yeah.
one. Somebody shared one with me.
sea grapes. We have.
Oh, I love sea grapes.
Yeah, and the thing is, I noticed that, like when I was growing up, not a lot of people had fruit trees in their yards because that just simply wasn't a thing. But now a lot of people have, like for example, a lot of people have mango trees in their yards.
Yeah,
mango trees, avocados. So I'll see people bringing them to work simply because they have so many of them that they can give them away. So if you have neighbors, if you have friends that have fruit trees, bush tea is a good way just to get some of the phytonutrients into your system. Lemongrass, basil.
Phytonutrients help us understand.
Phytonutrients, those are just basically nutrients that are found in plants, plant-based nutrients. And a lot of them are antioxidants. So basically they keep our cells in our bodies kind of like from, I liken it to rust, like metal rusting. So it keeps our cells from getting older.
Okay.
But it doesn't keep them, it doesn't really keep them, but it
Not
slows,
forever, but it slows that
it down a
progression,
little.
aging.
Yeah, so bush teas are a good way to get those phytonutrients into our system. Anything local is wonderful, but like I said, with fruits, people with diabetes especially, they shouldn't overdo because of the sugar content.
What about the stuff that you could buy that says probiotic that you could use? Where does that fit into it?
The probiotic is helpful for your gut health, for your stomach, so it helps with digestion. So that's why if you have problems with ulcers, if you have problems with any kind of digestive related issues, reflux syndrome, anything that affects your digestive health, probiotics are suggested. Yogurt is a great yogurt is a great source of probiotics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
So I wondered about any easy nutrition ideas. My sister was just here, sorry, and I was explaining this dilemma to her about, oh my God, I'm so scheduled out that it can be hard to go home and try to create a good meal. And she said, well, you know, why don't you just take some broth, some veggie broth or something, and chop up some vegetables and just put them in there, and then you have your veggies and you have like a nice quick soup and so forth. And I said, oh my God, that's such a great idea. And she said, that's very simple, it's easy, it can be a go-to, and you can use frozen vegetables which oftentimes have higher nutrition than maybe what we end up getting on the shelf for lots of different reasons.
Right.
So do you have any easy nutrition ideas? And it could even be easy and less expensive.
You're putting me on the spot because I don't like to cook.
Okay.
But what I find is, to me, that's very difficult, because when I talk to people, I always need to find out what they're doing so that I could tailor it to their particular situation, circumstance. However, what I would say is, whatever you're doing, try to plan and I'll keep this short, but plan and try to keep foods in your house. Like you said, the vegetables, even if you have to freeze them, and then you can easily prepare them that way. Okay. Yeah, but just it takes planning and it takes effort, because it's easy to say, okay, I'm just going to go and get a plate of food from my favorite place. Yeah, but that's a challenging question for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the challenge for us all. And I have this mindset or this idea that the reason why we have so much fast food and it's proliferated is because our culture has demanded it. Yeah. We have moved into a way of operating that has made that necessary so that we can produce at the rate at which we are asked to produce, and continue to do all the things that we are asked to do. And so we have evolved to have these institutions to support all this other stuff that's going on. So it really is a huge challenge, I think, for most of us to find nutrition that is adequate in the times that we're in.
Right, I totally agree.
We have just 5 minutes left, and I want to make sure that you said all the things that you came to say. So just fill a scene in general as to where we should go from this particular point on. And I do want you to use whatever authority you have for us to begin to do something with the children and in schools and so forth, because if we can get something there, it's a pattern that will be passed on as we go.
Yeah, I think in general, for people to be aware, first of all, people need the awareness of what they should be doing to make those changes. If you don't have the awareness, then you're not going to know what to do. So whether it's and the problem that with that on this island is we have so few resources as far as nutrition goes, because of course you have Dr. Letitia Henry that's in private practice, but we don't necessarily have people that we can reach out to in private practice that takes insurance or whatnot. We don't have like a great wealth of knowledge in that regard, but in any way you can get your awareness heightened as far as nutrition goes, try to do that. And just make small changes. Make small changes every single month. And some people will come to me and they'll say, Ms. Henry, Dr. Henry, I don't know what to do. What should I do? I think people innately know how to eat healthy. It's just a challenge of doing it. Because we know that a hamburger isn't as healthy as a bowl of callaloo.
Yes.
We know that. But people want a magic pill and they want something instant. So I think people just need to sit and say, okay, this is important to me. I'm going to make these changes. I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to eat more vegetables. I'm going to cut back on my fried foods, because people know that that's not healthy for them.
What about the restaurants offering more healthy options as well? Because I heard what you said, and sometimes you're going down the road and you're going through your mind, where should I go to get something to eat if you're not someone who's cooking or you're busy? And the restaurants don't necessarily have those healthy options, so you go with what's there.
Right.
I think I'll get a salad tonight, but
But
you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
I wonder if we can also encourage the restaurants to look at what their role is in terms of feeding the people.
That would have to be publicly driven. And if the public isn't demanding it, they're not going to change, because they're about making money.
Come on, public.
But what the public can do is, if the restaurants aren't making changes, go out and buy your plate of food. That's fine. I have nothing. I don't want people to think that I'm against buying a plate of food. Because, you have your stewed chicken, the stewed beef. That's healthy.
Right.
But don't eat it all at one time. And what you can do is, if it doesn't come with vegetables, keep vegetables in your house.
Yes.
Eat half of the whatever on the plate that you're bringing home, and add your own vegetables on the side.
That is such a smart idea.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So it's just about being aware of what you're doing and really think about how you can make changes.
But whilst you were talking, I just came up with a little plan here. The goal: I want to live for ages. So that's one thing. And then after that,
healthily.
I divide up and healthily.
Yes.
And then come up with a plan. And the plan is going to call for these small changes that you talked about. And I should really try to have some veggies every day and some protein. And what's the other one? Starch?
The starch, of course,
yes.
yeah.
And make most of it the veggies and see how it goes. And then go and check with my doctor or something, so to look at things like the amount of sugar in the body and all that kind of thing. And do some exercise. And you're on
Exercise
the road.
is so important. It's so important because nutrition is one of the aspects of health, but exercise is key as well.
Absolutely.
Getting
Well,
your
I know
body
Mr. Ali
moving.
exercises all the time. And Mr. Ali has been playing tennis a few times a week.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I'm going to be
And dancing.
And dancing, that's
Yeah.
right. Myself and
Well,
Dr. Henry
you're
dancing.
looking slick
Thank
and
you.
trim.
Thank
Slim
you.
and trim.
Thank
So,
you. Thank
so
you, Mr.
it's
Ali. I'm working
working for
on
you.
it. Thank you. It's so much fun. I think it's just a great way to live your life.
Exactly.
You know?
Absolutely.
Exactly. Find things that you like to do, and you're more likely going to stick to it.
Right.
So if I tell you to go and do this workout, if you don't like it, you're not going to do it.
Right.
You know, find something you love to do. We like
And
to
if you-
dance. We dance.
Love to
And
dance.
if you have high blood pressure, make sure you take your tablets. And so
Absolutely.
good. Keep in touch with your doctor on a fairly regular basis, 2 or 3
Absolutely.
times, and check your heart and all that lot. Yeah.
And it was just a quick thing about the bush teas, because we're talking about bush teas. Be careful with herbal remedies. A lot of people take this bush and that bush because a neighbor told them, or they have, their cousin told them. Be careful, because remember that those bushes are also medicinal. They have properties in them just like the regular medicines came from bushes. Bushes have medicinal properties. So check with your doctor. And a lot of you all don't want to talk to your doctors about certain things. If you're taking any herbal remedies, talk to your doctor first.
Absolutely.
Or a reputable bush doctor, because we do have a lot of reputable bush doctors. Not a lot, I know of a few, but talk to somebody who's knowledgeable, not your cousin down the street.
Well, Alice, thanks for saving some lives, because that's the
For real.
well, this is the information being provided can be extremely useful, and people could see it in a context that this will help them to live longer, feel better, less stress, and the whole works.
Yes.
So anything real quick, because we're going to...
You know, Mr. Ali, I'm just, again, happy to be moving forward with you again today. I'm so
Absolutely.
happy to have Dr. Henry able to join us and provide this very important information, because I think if we use this information, we'll definitely live happier, healthier lives. And that's what we want to do moving forward, is we want to be happy and healthy moving
Absolutely.
And
forward.
we want to pass it on.
And we want to
That's
pass
the
it on.
essence of
Absolutely.
it. Whatever we do now, make sure we're passing it on to the people who come behind us. If we're doing the right thing, beautiful.
Absolutely. I agree.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of people here who always do the right thing, and that's Earl Morris and, of course, the wonderful George Matthew. So I don't know what we will do without them. They're just being very helpful, and they like to move on and move forward as well. So
There we
thank
go.
you very much. We'll catch up with you next time.